Hi. In today's lesson we're going to take a look at how to do some mental math when we're multiplying. So for multiplication, a lot of times when we see large numbers it can be very intimidating. For example, 14 times 7 or 18 times 8, the two examples that we have up on the board here. When you first look at those numbers, it oftentimes can intimidate you because you say, well, I don't know how to do 14 times 7 or 18 times 8, and you think of the entire problem altogether. Well, sometimes when you're trying to do math in your head, the best way to deal with multiplication is actually to break it up into smaller problems, and that's what we're going to take a look at in these two examples. So one way that we can break up problems, whenever you have a number that's more than one digit, so for example in this case 14, we can break that up into smaller pieces. So when we're doing 14 times 7, 14, if we look at the tens and we look at the ones separately, 14 is the same thing as 10 and 4. So that way, if we break that up into those two pieces, we can now multiply 7 times each of those, which essentially 7 times 14 is like saying that you have 7 times 10 and 7 times 4 put together into one number, 14. So if we do 10 times 7, that's oftentimes a little bit of an easier calculation for us to do in our head. Anytime you're multiplying a number by 10, you're simply adding a 0 to the end. So 7 times 10 would be 70. And 4 times 7, this comes down to basic multiplication times tables, and if you're unfamiliar with those, then you want to make sure that you start there before trying to advance to doing mental math with more complicated numbers. But here, 4 times 7 gives us 28. And now we simply add those two pieces together to get our total. 70 plus 28 would give us 98. So the more that you do it, the more comfortable you get, the faster you'll be able to go. But mental math is always a good way to save time once you get comfortable with it, because it oftentimes takes less time than typing it into a calculator. And sometimes mental math is helpful just to check yourself on the work that you're doing, because if you know approximately what numbers you should get as your results, then that ensures that you can check your work more effectively, because then if you type something into a calculator incorrectly and you get a number that's far off from what you expected, you'll know that you maybe need to go back and take a second look at the calculation you just did. Let's try one more example to make sure we're comfortable with this approach to multiplication. So 18 times 8. What parts do we want to split 18 up into? If you said 10 and 8, you're absolutely right. So we're going to do 10 times 8 and 8 times 8 as separate calculations, and then we're going to piece them together to get our final answer. 10 times 8 gives us 80. 8 times 8 gives us 64, and when we add those together, 80 plus 64 gives us 144. So we can use mental math to do calculations for even problems that seem complex at first, if we're able to break those problems up into simpler pieces. For more information or tips and tricks, please feel free to visit our website, www.sandersontestprep.com. The link is in the description below. Thanks for watching.